Hi and welcome. I'm Juanita Potgieter and I head up sales and marketing at Verde Group New Zealand. Verde is an Oracle NetSuite solution partner, and in this video I will provide an introduction and demonstration of the NetSuite SuiteSuccess manufacturing software. Before we move on, note that the content in this video is intended for information purposes only and correct at the time of publishing. Before jumping into the demonstration, I would like to share more on NetSuite, share more on SuiteSuccess, the leading methodology that has been a major reason why NetSuite is the #1 cloud ERP system. I will then do a demonstration of the SuiteSuccess standard manufacturing cloud solution for a make-to-stock bike company. Some of you might be a make-to-order company or leverage contract manufacturing. A large number of our customers arrive at a finished good in a different mode than make-to-stock. So it's important to note that regardless of your path, we can easily manage that within the solution. It is important to understand the company that you're partnering with. Oracle acquired NetSuite in 2016 because NetSuite is the #1 ERP system and have done especially well working with companies in the emerging space that are looking to grow. It is also interesting to note that NetSuite is the fastest growing part of Oracle, and a lot of that growth has to do with how successful NetSuite is in the emerging space. NetSuite has over 10,000 employees supporting the constant development of the NetSuite product. They have over 40,000 organizations and subsidiaries running on the same version of NetSuite. NetSuite has leveraged this large customer base to create the SuiteSuccess methodology, which I'll touch on next. SuiteSuccess is a multi-year transformation effort to combine the NetSuite unified suite, 20 years of industry-leading practices, a new customer engagement model, and business optimization methods into a unified industry cloud solution. NetSuite changed the way they work as a company, how they build software, how we deliver software and services, and how we manage the relationship. This way, you can take advantage of what has been built for others rather than having to build everything from scratch. It will allow you to consume reports, workflows, business intelligence, and training for your organization while still allowing you to do your day-to-day job with minimal disruption to your existing business. It has the best time to value by enabling our customers to be live on a fully configured system in 100 days or less. And finally, it provides a pathway for you to continue to optimize your business down the road. So as your needs may change, NetSuite can change with you. All of our customers are running on the same version of NetSuite at the core. And as you grow and adapt as a business, you can choose to implement different modules of NetSuite that meet these changing needs. Today we're going to be focusing on the SuiteSuccess manufacturing software. Now in this demo, you're going to see how NetSuite automates data across transactions, is going to help improve collaboration across your departments, and then deliver real-time business intelligence on this flexible true cloud platform. Throughout the demo, we're going to be following a sale through a sales cycle while manufacturing a product to meet your customer's demand. To start this, let me go ahead and provide you with a brief overview of NetSuite's environment. And the first thing you're going to notice here is that I'm logged into NetSuite using Firefox now. NetSuite is browser agnostic, meaning you have the ability to reach this on any web browser. And furthermore, you have access to NetSuite anywhere in the world where you are connected to the internet, whether that is on your iPhone, your Android, or even your tablet. Now, with that said, in today's cyber world, data security really is a top priority. And with NetSuite, you're going to the highest level of commercially available security encryption with 256-bit TLS, which is going to be the same as our global financial institutions. Now, the one thing I'd also like to point out here as well is that NetSuite is a role-based system. This is going to provide the segregation of duties so that you maintain a clear audit trail of all the transactions that occur in your system. Now, as we move between multiple roles today, you're going to see how this works. And it's going to help you understand how the pre-configured workflows are going to help you optimize your business processes. Now, the dashboard that we're looking at here is made of reports and certain KPIs and reminders that are tailored to the specific role that we're in now. From the 21 years of experience NetSuite has, they were able to gather feedback from our customers to help provide this tailored dashboard specific to a role, made up of metrics, workflows, and reports that are pertinent to your day-to-day to help you drive your overall business success. Now, I'd also like to point out here a real differentiator. Unlike other ERP solutions in the market, the information here is preloaded out of the box on day one. And what's more is that the data you're going to be looking at is going to reflect the status of your business in real time. It's not going to be done in a batch process. Now this, coupled with NetSuite's simple data migration processes, which utilizes a CSV upload, it's going to help provide actionable insight into your business out of the gate on day one. Now that CSV upload that I'm also referring to here, it is also going to help you maintain your system as you continue to grow and as you continue to add items to your portfolio. Now to start this off, you know as soon as you do log in here, you can draw your attention to your KPIs. So Monday morning, I could log into my system and I can take a look and see my sales are significantly up. By drilling into this, I can now look at a trend graph based on my sales performance on a monthly basis. And maybe I want to look at this on a comparative to last year. With a few clicks of the button, I can now look at this compared to last year's sales and see where I'm really trending upwards. The takeaway here is that I no longer need a data analyst pushing this information to me. I don't need to reach out to Verde or NetSuite to ask them to develop something like this for me. Rather, it is sitting on my dashboard as soon as you log in and get up and running on NetSuite. Now all of the information that you see here as well is also drillable. So the underlying transactions are going to be seen here as we open up a preloaded report by sales by customer. So again, all the information that we see there outlined on the dashboard is going to be reachable to the underlying transaction. Now I've mentioned here a few times that this dashboard is pre-configured based on the role that you're in. But we understand that employees, as fast-growing companies like yourself, they wear many hats. So the dashboard and roles can be personalized to meet your employees' needs. With that said, the dashboard can also be configured based on how you want it to look and feel. So I can drag and drop this information however I would like. Say there's something on here that I don't see and I need to reference on a daily basis, I can further personalize this dashboard. And I can add additional KPIs, I can add custom searches, or can even drop in an additional analytics tool. It's going to give me insight into my business and really what's driving it. We will touch on this analytics tool at the end of the demonstration today. Now another thing I'd like to point out here is how intuitive it is to search throughout the system. Compared to other ERP systems or solutions on the market where you have to use transactional basis to search throughout the system, NetSuite is very intuitive and you can do it in a few different ways. The first of which is using our center bar, which is running across the top of the screen. This is going to act as a drop down for different areas within NetSuite and different reports. So say we want to reach a sales by customer report again. It's as easy as coming down to this drop down and finding it under sales. And moving to the left, we're always going to have access back to the home dashboard that we see here. And to the left of this, we're going to have a favorite sub-tab. So this drop-down is going to be a place where we can store our favorite instances or reports, events of NetSuite that we want quick access to. And now just on the left of this, we're also going to have our recent records drop down, where we may have a recent record or transaction that we were on. So in this instance, say we wanted to reach a sales order that we were on last night, when we come back the next morning, we're going to have access to that right here and now. Those are all great ways to search throughout the system, but really the most efficient and intuitive way to do so is using the global search bar, which is going to act as a Google search within NetSuite. So you can key in or you can enter words in the system such as an invoice number, and it's going to search across the unified platform to provide that information to you. So we're going to continue to use this throughout the presentation today. But let's go ahead and move now into kind of the sales cycle in the process that we're going to follow. So before we do so, let me go ahead and kind of give you a rundown of what we plan to do today. Now, NetSuite's manufacturing capabilities really range from helping companies that might just outsource their manufacturing requirements, the companies that need additional manufacturing needs like capacity, scheduling, workstations, or even complex manufacturing lines. Now, for reference today, we're going to be showing you an example of a make-to-stock company that manufactures bicycles. And from a high level, what I plan to show you, we're going to start by processing an order. From there, we're going to run into manage supply chain to check for raw materials and also generate a work order to assemble that bike from. From there, we will go ahead and fulfill the order and finally invoice and collect payments to close the loop. Today we're going to go into a senior executive role where we'll be able to report on all the transactions that just occurred in the system and look at how that's impacting our major financial statements. Now, to start the sales process, let's go ahead and say that I received a voicemail from someone who received a marketing email from this company and now they're interested in hearing more about the deal. By using NetSuite's global search, I can search across the system to see if this is an existing customer. I can see that it is for Bike Brothers, and this is going to bring me to the customer record, which is going to serve as a single source of truth for all our customers. So here we're going to capture basic information as well as information like the sales rep who is accountable and the original lead source tied to the customer. You can see here the lead was originally sourced from a trade show. Now perhaps the contact information was automated into NetSuite from this trade show using an online lead form, and if that was the case, you know more than likely this lead was routed to me automatically using predefined sales rules and territories that are native to NetSuite's CRM. Now with this record, I'm no longer really going to have to dig through emails. I'm not going to look back at spreadsheets to understand the history between my company and Bike Brothers here. I can see all the past communications such as emails and phone logs without leaving the system now, right here. I can see all historical sales and top items purchased, giving me valuable context into this customer's history prior to me following up. Furthermore, I can also see any marketing campaigns associated to this customer, any mailing list subscriptions that we have an effect with them. Now, by having this associated to the customer record, we're going to be able to report on the effectiveness of the campaigns at the end of the day. And what that's going to do, it's going to allow us to target our marketing dollars better. Now, this is a nice way to look at our customer's record, but to get an even more granular view, we're going to be able to view the customer's dashboard. It's going to provide additional reports and metrics. Now, the customer's dashboard is going to provide those customer details that we were looking at a moment ago in a more consolidated view, but it's also going to outline additional KPIs such as sales forecast, bank balance, things related to our customers that we're going to want insight into. And that's going to even include new cases. So NetSuite's native case management, I'm able to track customer complaints. I'm able to follow up efficiently and report on commonalities. This is ultimately going to help build customer confidence as we can start identifying recurring issues all while meeting customers' expectations. So if we start reporting on a common issue at the engineering level, we can see that it may be a material that's failing. We're going to be able to reach out to engineering and say, hey, we're going to change something, issue an ECO, and then move forward with that so we can start meeting our customers' expectations. So with that, let's go ahead and move back to this form view, and it's kind of the start of the sales cycle. So let's say I touch base with the customer and they're ready to place an order for 5 mountain bikes. With one click of the button, here I can generate a quote. And this is going to take us to the quote transaction form that comes pre-built with the SuiteSuccess solution. Now you'll notice here that some fields are going to be required. Some fields are not editable. But this is all driven off the custom form that we have outlined here. Okay, so this is going to control which fields appear, which fields are required, and which fields can be edited. Many of our customers really enjoy the flexibility of this because you can create forms of transactions. You can create specific forms for customers, and therefore, by doing so, you can add custom fields. You can set default WARN preferences, which is going to help improve user adoption. It's going to help make the system a little bit more intuitive for your employees. Now from here, just below that, you can see I can add a title to my quote. I can adjust the quote expiration date, but to the right here, we can see that I have a status and a probability to close this, which I can adjust based on my level of confidence to close this. And below here, you can see that I have requested to include this in my forecast, which is going to help build my pipeline so that I can provide my management with an accurate forecast. As I move here to the right, I'm going to go ahead and update my location. One of the big takeaways here of having a CRM that is integrated with my ERP is having the visibility into my inventory. Now, as a sales rep, I'm no longer going to overcommit or waste my time trying to reach someone in the warehouse to see if an item is available. Rather, I can see that within NetSuite here. So you will notice as I enter this mountain bike into the system that I have none available for commitment. This means that we're going to have to manufacture a bike to meet that demand. So you'll also note as I go ahead and add the quantity of 5 on here that the promotional discount that was sent to the customer is automatically applied as I have that running over the next year. As we make our way back to the top, we can also estimate our shipping. Now NetSuite is integrated directly with our native partner integration with freight operators. So our customers can upload their carrier's information directly into NetSuite, which is then going to calculate the pre-negotiated real-time shipping rates. Ultimately, you don't have to leave NetSuite to do so. You're not going to navigate to an external website. Rather, that information is just going to flow into the system as you can see here. Now, once I go ahead and save this quote, it is automatically going to be sent to our customer. I'm not going to have to jump out of the system again to send it in Outlook, and on top of that, it's going to store that information inside of NetSuite. So we're always going to be able to reference to it on the customer record. So again, giving me valuable context into the relationship that I have with this customer. So now that the customers actually received this quote, let's assume that Bike Brothers is ready to move forward with the order, and therefore they sent us a purchase order. So with a single click of the button here, I can go ahead and turn this into a sales order. And as you've probably noticed throughout this is the flow of information form to form. It really helps eliminate that manual re-entry and the chance of human-prone error. And this is due to the initial setup, one on the customer record, but two also on the item record, which I'm going to pull up here for reference. So we know for a products company, really the item record is what creates the downstream automation as it's tied to each transaction that we execute on. So as you can see in this example, we have a serialized assembly item which is going to be labeled as a mountain bike. Alright, so in this record, we can see at the primary level the item name. We can also see the item type, and we can even associate an image to it. Now below, we can see the product classification, which is going to allow for bidirectional reporting so you can see the department class and location, which is going to give us valuable context and understanding what's driving our business based on which department, what kind of product line is really doing so. So we'll touch on this a bit more at the end of this presentation as well. Now, the scheduling line here also identifies common attributes for our products so that as we go to release them to production, it's done so in the leanest form possible. So we're going to see this when we move into the next role and we actually work as the production manager. Now, just below here, we also have a component list that makes up the mountain bike's assembly. We can see here that we have the item name. We have the description. We can associate a component yield so that we can account for attrition upfront and release that total BOM quantity so that we don't run out on the floor if we start to lose some yield. Now we also have our item source outline here. The item source is going to determine if we need to pull components from our stock. We need to create them from a work order, or if we're going to go ahead and purchase those. We can also designate it as a phantom BOM, so this is going to help flatten out our bill of material. So we're releasing less work orders for small assemblies like the wheel assembly. So we'll touch on that here as well when we go ahead and print out the pick list as a production manager. Now to the right here, we also see that we have an effective date and an absolute date. This is going to ensure that we have the most up-to-date bill of material. Now in NetSuite, we have two ways of controlling the BOM. The first of which is effectivity date. Now this is best used for items with a shelf life and are going to be manually updated. So think of a thermal paste or something along those lines. The second is revision control, which is going to automate your bill of materials revisions and pull the latest revision from inventory based on a specified date. So a couple of ways of doing that and flexibility over your bill of material. Now if we look along these other sub-tabs here, we can also establish our price. We can also determine which accounts are going to get hit as we make our way through these transactions. However, what I want to focus on here mainly today is under purchasing and inventory, and really what our replenishment method is and how we're going to replenish this item in NetSuite. Okay, the first way we can do so is using our reorder point, which will help replenish stock to the preferred levels based on automated calculations. The second, which we're going to be looking at today, is the time phase demand, which will replenish stock through NetSuite's demand planning tool. So on that note, and then we talked about this a few times though, but the initial setup here in NetSuite on the customer record, on the item record, is really what's going to allow NetSuite to do most of the legwork for us when dealing with transactions related to these customers and these items, and we'll continue to see that as we make our way through this demonstration. Now, before we do move into the manufacturing piece of this, let me go ahead and just recap what we hit on in our sales cycle. So we pulled up a customer direct by entering a phone number into the global search. That record gave us insight and valuable context into the history with that customer, where we could also see there was an active promotion, and we were able to generate that quote based on their request. Now, as a sales rep, that quote was also tied to my forecast, so we understand where I expect to hit at the end of the month. And from there, we were also automatically able to turn that quote into a sales order, understanding that we were going to manufacture goods because we had visibility into our inventory and we saw that we had zero for commitment. From there, we went ahead and navigated to the item record that we see right here. And this is where we would determine what the replenishment method was, and based on what we saw here, it's a time phase demand plan. So in this next piece, let's go ahead and move into a production manager and actually go ahead and run that. So while we're going into the production manager role, we're going to generate a demand and supply plan for that mountain bike. And once complete, I'll go ahead and pull up a work order scheduler to release those auto-generated work orders so that we can fulfill the Bike Brothers sales orders. Now before I do so, the first thing that you'll notice is that a dashboard is tailored to what a production manager needs to see on a regular basis. I can log in Monday morning and I can see that our inventory turnover is significantly below our average, as well as the number of work orders created for the week. Now, this means most likely we need to release some work orders to keep our line wet and are holding costs low. So again, those type of metrics are going to give me visibility, give me an understanding of what we need to do on a daily basis here. So with that understanding, let's go ahead and move up to our favorites drop-down and calculate our demand plan for the week. Now, based on our manager's direction, you know we're going to be calculating this using a forward-looking method. That's going to take into account our sales forecast. Our sales forecast is going to look at our pipeline and active orders. So again, a forward-looking method of running our demand plan. But alternatively, we could also use a backward-looking method that would use linear regression, moving average, or seasonal algorithms to understand what our demand is. But in this instance, we're going to be using sales forecast. I'm going to look at this in a monthly period, and I'm just going to run this for the next 6 months. Again, we could go ahead and run this demand for everything in bulk here, projected out for all items, but I'm really only interested in the mountain bike for the day. So you can see that NetSuite is prompting me, asking me if I want to overwrite my quantities. And given the fact that I have run this before, I'm going to want to overwrite these current quantities so that I have the most up-to-date demand. So as I drill into the mountain bike here, we can now see the demand for the month. So we're no longer going to hold the sales production meeting to lock these types of numbers down. Rather, NetSuite's integrated engine using that link between the CRM and our ERP is going to be what will help us determine the demand for the month. So now that I have the demand plan that has been generated, we can go back and generate a supply plan off of this demand. We're going to go ahead and update our location, and we will run our time fence for the next month here. One thing that I would like to note as I go ahead and run this is that the supply plans is not only going to generate work orders for items that need to be manufactured, but it's also going to blow through the bill of materials to suggest purchase orders for components that we need to produce. Now in this instance, we have all the components for that bike in stock, so we're only going to be really worried about that top level assembly that's going to be shown here. Now, as we drill into this, we can see that NetSuite's demand and supply plan generated that work order required to meet the demand for Bike Brothers order. So again, we didn't have to manually track this in a spreadsheet. We didn't need to connect with sales personnel or even hold a weekly meeting to kind of nail these numbers down, which is going to be critical as we continue to grow, as we continue to receive an increased number of orders. This type of planning tool will help automate our business processes, so at the end of the day, we can support our customers' demand. So with that said, now that we've generated our monthly demand plan, I'm ready to go ahead and release this material to the floor. So navigating up to our favorites drop down, let's go ahead and pull up that scheduler. So here we can see a list of all the work orders that need to be released. Now we can go ahead and narrow this search by filtering by sub-location item, even customer if we wish. However, the most efficient way for me to schedule my production is using scheduling attributes. As you might have just noticed there, as I did filter that, but if you recall on the item record, I associated a scheduling attribute to the mountain bike known as a bicycle. And what this is going to do, as I go ahead and filter this, this allows me to release similar builds simultaneously so that we can streamline our production runs. So here I can filter like I just did by bicycle to see the work orders the supply plan generated for Bike Brothers. So I can see that I have 2 listed here, but we're only really worried about that mountain bike. But again, we could go ahead and release these in bulk if we'd like to. But I'm going to drill into the dates and open this up. So from the work order here, I can go ahead and edit the document and change the status from planned to released. And once this page is going to be saved, I'll be able to create the build. I'll also have the ability to print the BOM. So this is going to act as my pick list, or can also associate any work instructions or technical drawings to the bill of materials. So as our operators go to work on this, they're going to get the correct resources available to them. Now here, as I do have this pulled up on the pick list, it's going to call out all the components required for the entire build outlined here, and then as well the components required for individual mountain bikes. Now as you can see here, I also use that phantom BOM designation as it's calling out that there's some assembly required for those wheels. So again, this has given us the ability to flatten out our bill of material, creating less paperwork on the floor, especially for some of those simpler sub-assembly processes. Let's go ahead and close out from this, and let's go ahead and create the build now. As we do create this build, we're going to be able to see how this ties to our general ledger, where we're going to precisely consume component usage to keep our inventory levels as accurate as possible. But before we do so, this is a serialized item, and we're going to let NetSuite automatically generate those numbers for us. So I'm going to use a prefix for Bright Brothers, and this is going to auto-generate 1 through 5 for me. Now we also have the ability to adjust for our components, just in case we need additional material as we did release to the floor, there wasn't enough attrition. We want to make sure that we can account for the material that's being consumed. So NetSuite is going to give us the flexibility to do so. So as this does hit our general ledger again, our inventory counts will be correct. Now let's go ahead and save this. And what I'd like to point out here is as I pull up my general ledger again, as we complete this transaction, it's automatically going to hit our GL where we can see a credit to our inventory and we can see a debit to our finished goods. And what this means to you, it means you're no longer going to manually account for this by creating manual journal entries, or you're not going to have to run nightly cycle counts to maintain accurate inventory levels. Before I go ahead and move into a warehouse manager world to actually fulfill this item, let me just do a quick recap on what we've accomplished as a production manager today. So as you noticed, I logged in, I got a quick pulse on my production activity where I noticed that I needed to release the material to the floor. From there, I was able to pull up my work order scheduler and release material to the floor based on common attributes. And then last, we were able to complete this build and consume components all within a few clicks of a button. So now that that's been built and we're ready to actually go ahead and fill that order, let's now move into a warehouse manager's role. And the first thing you're going to notice here again, as I change roles, is that my dashboard is now tailored to that warehouse manager. I have KPIs tied to my inventory, tied to my fulfillments, and these metrics are also going to get updated in real time as inventory flows in and out of our warehouse. Now I can see under my reminders portlet that I have a new order to fulfill, and just based on my metrics here, I understand that I want to get some items out the door today. So let's go ahead and drill into this now. This reminder also increments in real time as sales reps are going to continue to enter orders into the system. But these are the type of reminders that NetSuite's workflows push to us so that we are proactive and we're accountable, so no orders slip through as we go and try and fulfill. Now here I can see that I have a list of all my open sales orders, including that sales order forward from Bike Brothers. Now in this instance, I can go ahead and filter by location. I could also mark and fulfill these in bulk, which is usually the most common case of doing so. But in this instance, for the sake of this demonstration, let me go ahead and just drill into the individual transaction. Now the system is auto-generating an item fulfillment record that can be tracked back to the original sales order. So with that, we also have the ability to track fulfillment. So that's why it's going to offer the ability to have statuses at picked, packed, and shipped now, depending on what your warehousing looks like. If you have staging areas, this is probably the best solution going forward. But if you have a more simple staging process, we can just do a single step, as I'm going to do today. And we can do it just as shipped. Now, since NetSuite is also integrated to freight carriers, I can save and print a shipping label directly within NetSuite. So again, I'm not going to have to log into a carrier's external website. We're now going to be able to print this label, place in a box, and ship it all out in one go with NetSuite. Before we go ahead and save this again is a serialized item, so I'm going to update the inventory and we'll add those 5 serialized bikes to this order. Now as I save this from the fulfillment record, the order is going to be updated and marked as shipped, as we can see here. And the integrated shipping that we have is going to automate that email to our customer, and it's going to confirm the tracking information, so that it's going to keep our customers engaged all the way through the sales cycle. So now that we're wrapping up, as the warehouse manager, we've shipped that out. We've also contacted our customers with the tracking information. We're ready to go ahead and now collect payment on this. Before we do so, let's go ahead and kind of recap on what we did as a warehouse manager. So as you saw, that sales order automatically fed into my reminders portlet in real time. What that's going to do for your company is you're going to be able to improve collaboration and efficiency between your departments to ultimately help support your customers' demand. We also saw that being able to fulfill these in bulk, printing those labels out in NetSuite is going to help with scalability as you continue to grow. It's going to help streamline a lot of these processes. That means you will be able to handle more transactions without having to face the urgency of hiring additional headcount. Let's now go ahead and switch into an AR analyst role, where we're going to be able to invoice that sales order, manage our receivables, and then ultimately accept payment for Bike Brothers. So we're going to be noticing a common theme here again, as the content I'm now looking at here is going to be relevant to my accounting. The KPIs that I'm looking at are going to be tied to my receivables, my payables, my bank balance, and in my reminders portlet, I can now see that I have multiple sales orders to invoice. Now, similar to that fulfillment process, I'm going to be able to see all the open sales orders pending billing, including our sales order at the top here for Bike Brothers. Now, if I wanted to, much like the other pages, I could go ahead and invoice things in bulk. I could go ahead and schedule these invoices as well to let NetSuite do the legwork. But again, for the sake of this demonstration, let's go ahead and do the individual invoice. Now, as I drill into this record, you can see I have the ability to bill. And as I generate this invoice, there's really no need to manually re-enter any data. All this information from that sales order is going to be auto-populated onto the invoice. And again, as I continue my way through, that traceability back to the original sales order is going to be detailed here as well. Now, this is going to include the due date, which coupled with the terms or the net terms that we have on the customer record, are going to show me when this is due, and it's going to help me track my invoices as it hits my AR aging. So let's go ahead and save this. And automatically an invoice is going to be sent to my customer, making them aware of that payment that is due. Now again, as that is based on those net terms, I'm able to track this against my accounts receivable aging report. So using my global search here, let's go ahead and search across the system. Just like I was able to do with the global search earlier to navigate to the CRM, I can now leverage the same tool to pinpoint financial reports. Really, the power of housing your CRM, ERP, and your inventory data in a centralized system like this in NetSuite is the ability to search for pretty much anything across the system. Now, as I zoom in here with our AR aging summary, I can track all of my open invoices with my customers in real time. I can also see as I move down to Bike Brothers the outstanding balances for Bike Brothers. So again, this is giving me the visibility into what is outstanding. It is important to know as we want to improve our cash flow and minimize any bad debt as these extend past their due dates. But from here, I can also view each of the open invoices, which is totaling that balance. And from this report, I can actually drill into that original transaction. So again, from all these reports, we can drill into the underlying transactions. So as I do pull up this invoice, now let's say that some 30 days have passed, whatever that might be, and we receive a check in the mail covering the balance from this invoice. So from here, we can go ahead and accept payment with one click. And NetSuite is going to apply the payment against the invoice by default. But if we wanted to, we could go ahead and accept a larger payment and also apply it to any of these outstanding balances that we see here. Now we're also going to be able to record the payment method. So as we're receiving this by check, let's go ahead and note the check number on here for audit purposes. And as I save this payment transaction in the background, what's going to occur is we're going to send an automated message to our customer thanking them for their payment. And much like we saw on the other pages, we're going to see the impact on our GL. So with all posting transactions, again, NetSuite is automating these journal entries to our unified GL. So here we can see that our payment has debited our checking account while crediting our accounts receivable. The nice thing here is that users can configure these items and customer records to control which accounts are receiving these postings for each transaction. So again, very flexible when it comes to seeing which accounts need to be hit. So as I close out of this, we're going to go ahead and update our AR aging report. So here, as I refresh this, we're going to see that we no longer see that invoice for the payment that we just collected. So instead, I can now prioritize and focus on the next open receivable. So with that there, we basically just saw end-to-end how NetSuite is going to really intuitively automate transactions across every role in the system. From sales to warehouse to accounting, you could see how I didn't have to manually re-enter data since I originally created that quote. What this means to you is that you're going to be able to improve transactional efficiency and you're going to be able to limit the number of mistakes that are reoccurring when you manually re-enter information. So with that said, now that we've seen how these transactions are executed in NetSuite, let's say as a senior executive, I may want to generate reports to see how the business is trending, to help me make better strategic decisions to drive growth at the end of the day. So to wrap this up, let's go ahead and move into a senior executive's role. And from here, you're going to see a high-level view of my KPIs. So it's going to be tied to my revenue, my expenses, and I'm going to look at trend graphs to ensure that there are going to be no surprises when it comes to the health of my business. Right from the KPI portlet here, I can recognize a good upward trend in my revenue, and I can immediately drill into my income statement to gain some deeper context. As I do so now, I'm going to be reviewing all of my account balances, which are going to be up to date as of the latest transaction that we've just entered into the system. I can also control how I view this income statement. So I can choose a time horizon if I wanted to break this out by period, quarter, however that might be. I can also determine a subsidiary context for this report. Now, since NetSuite uses a natural chart of accounts structure, we treat subsidiaries as a segment of our chart of accounts, which means that all financial reports are in a constant state of consolidation, and therefore I can always filter by my subsidiaries or consolidated parent context to see my top level reporting. So we hear from customers all the time that they used to spend hours, countless hours, manually consolidating these reports, especially when you're using multiple instances of another system, having to download that information into Excel and then having to consolidate that. With NetSuite, this is something that's going to naturally occur in the system as you go through and create your transactions. Now, with that said, being in the bike business here, I may need to distinguish the visibility into how each of my product lines are performing for this current fiscal year, so I can slice and dice this income statement to kind of gain that visibility. So now I can see here my revenue and expenses are broken down by each of my product lines, and I have meaningful data to make those strategic decisions. With NetSuite, you're also always going to have the ability to export to Excel, PDF, or Word. You can print, and you can also go ahead and email this if you'd like to do that directly within the system. With NetSuite, you can even schedule to automate these reports. So for example, if there's key stakeholders that you would want to send this onto on a regular basis, say your board members, and you want to send them a segmented piece of this income statements on a weekly basis, we can set a schedule for say 2 p.m. on a Friday to send this to people outside of the system so they understand what's going on with the state of your business. And just like we saw with the AR aging summary, these reports are completely drillable down to the transaction level. So here I can view all the transactions that are driving my business based on that mountain bike. So I can drill into this and here have a view of all the transactions again related to that product line. So again, we just went through, created that last invoice, and now it's going to be sitting here on our record. Now, this really is just the tip of the iceberg. NetSuite comes pre-built with up to 250 reports, and those reports are still customizable, which meet most of our customers' needs out of the box. But if you need to create a new report, NetSuite is also going to give you the tools to do so without needing a programmer or data analyst or having to reach out to Verde or NetSuite to do so. Let's see how we can leverage this unified database to generate powerful queries and gain a little bit deeper insight into our business by using first our saved searches and second NetSuite's more robust business intelligence tool that is native to the platform. So to do so, let's go ahead and move into a production manager's role. Let's say that I just received a fairly unpleasant email from a customer due to a delayed commitment. To better understand the issue at hand, I'm going to first go ahead and pull up my late work orders before we circle back with that customer. So we're going to be able to see that saved search providing a report that highlights any work order that is 10 days old. The saved search is essentially a query that allows us to report on fields within NetSuite. This is a very efficient way to report within NetSuite, but to better understand the reasoning behind our delays. I also held a meeting earlier this week to get ahead of these types of things. So collectively, what we decided to do was to add a field to our work orders to establish 1. The resolution to their late work orders, and 2. The planner responsible for following it up. Now with this report that you can see here, I understand what's late, but before I respond to the customer, I want to understand how we're going to correct this and who is responsible for it. So with that quick change to the work order form that I just mentioned, in the power of NetSuite's business intelligence tool, I'm going to be able to look at this information and have a consolidated view either in a report, a pivot table in a chart. So to show you how that's done here, I'm going to go ahead and move into my Suite Analytics tool. And here I can pull up a workbook that I've already preceded in the system based on our work orders past due. Now this reporting tool, it's going to allow me to report across again any field in the system, and it's going to allow me to link information like that new field I created, the late work order resolution and the planner responsible for it. Ultimately, this is going to provide me with the ability to follow up faster by delegating my work across my entire team. So here you can see that I filtered my criteria for only what I want displayed. So here we want the source transaction to only be work orders. I want the status to be anything that is in process, planned, or to be released. And we also want to filter the work order for anything that has an end date before today. So we're only looking at late work orders. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, we can also bring in additional results to this search by looking across the system for custom fields that we want to include. Therefore, as I was talking about earlier, we have our late work order resolution and our planners. So to show you how I was able to bring this in, as we already have it preceded in here, it's as simple as using, again, a global search. This is where we can search across the system for late work order resolution. Now, this is looking for every field, and I can pull this and drag it into this report. I've already done so, so I won't do this one, but planners would be the same exact thing. I can search across the system and now pull planners into this report. Since it's already done, I won't do so now. Here we can see that information outlined in the report. But what if I wanted to go ahead and consolidate this information even further and aggregate the results to really pinpoint the issue at hand? NetSuite's going to give us the ability to do so by generating a pivot table within the system. So here we can generate a pivot table based on the data that we just cultivated. So this is going to give me valuable context to better understand truly what's driving these delays and who is responsible. So as you can see here, the current delays are really made up of expediting material, and a bulk of it is following under Abiquan. So with this understanding, I can now sit down with my team members. I can see if there's any additional training that needs to be done to ensure this doesn't continue to happen. Or maybe it's out of their control and I need to get involved with our vendors to ensure that we have material on time going forward. Now I want to continue to monitor this. I want to ensure that we begin to trend downward on a regular basis. I'm going to go ahead and include this chart on my dashboard. So in the same way that we created that pivot table, I'm going to create a chart. And the information that we're interested in includes our transactions, so our work orders we want to look at, late work order resolution, and the planner responsible. Now, moving back to our home page here, I'm going to add this to my dashboard like we talked about in the beginning of the session. I can personalize my dashboard and add information that's pertinent to my day-to-day. So yeah, as I do go back to the home dashboard, I'm going to have a choice to be able to add either that pivot table or a chart to my dashboard. So I can make sure that we start getting the orders out the door on time. So you can see as this load, I'm going to have that chart now on my dashboard. And really the advantage here is having actual insight into my production without having to wander around the production floor. Or setting up a meeting with my production supervisor on a regular basis, or having again to consolidate this information into Excel. And that's really the takeaway for the day here. Throughout this entire demo, NetSuite is built to streamline your business. It's built to eliminate manual processes, and it's built to provide insight like this into information, so that you have actionable insight to meet your customers' demand at the end of the day. Now, with that said, we went through a lot today, but let's go ahead and just quickly recap our session. So basically we saw how users can leverage our centralized data and execute on transactions really across the entire organization. Starting at that sales role, you saw how I was quickly able to generate a quote based on a customer's record and how that information flowed seamlessly into a sales order really without having to rekey any information. From there, I ran that demand and supply plan that automatically generated work orders, which also blew through the entire bill of materials to ensure that we had the components on hand. And from there, using that scheduler, we were able to release work orders to the floor and create the bill. Now, the tie to NetSuite's general ledger was where we could automatically account for material consumption so that my inventory and cost are up to date. Now, NetSuite's workflows are really what allowed us to fulfill and bill a customer seamlessly. To close this all out, we centered around reporting, looking at our major financial statements to see how that real-time transaction hit our books. The last portion of this is around the ability to effectively report on anything throughout the system. Now, we went through a lot during this short demonstration, but again, one thing really does separate NetSuite from other solutions is this last piece here, the help features in the system. Let's say that you were looking at a purchase order and you are new to NetSuite and don't exactly understand how to fill this out. NetSuite's Help Center at the top of the page is always going to give you access to our Help section. The Help Center is going to include detailed walkthroughs for each area of the software, which again can be accessed from the page that you are on. It can be accessed from our table of contents, or it can be searched throughout the global search. Now, the NetSuite user guides to our left here is going to provide setup instructions and construction conceptual details of specific areas within NetSuite. So these are probably the most detailed walkthroughs in NetSuite. To the left of this, for our visual learners, we're going to video tutorials that include and demonstrate how to perform leading practices specific to the task that you're in. So again, especially if you're hiring on new employees and they need to learn how to work within the system, this is a great place to start. The last segment of this is NetSuite Suite Answers, and this is going to be a living repository of troubleshooting user cases. Suite Answers is going to act as a Wikipedia of sorts in the system, which provides answers to similar cases where people like you have already run into that issue. So this will help you troubleshoot it as soon as you put it into the system, so you can see different outlines here, and you're going to have this all at your disposal at all times. I hope that you saw enough to consider NetSuite moving forward. If you would like to set up a meeting with a technical expert from our team to walk you through our leading practices and the system in more detail, please reach out to us at sales@verdegroup.co.nz today. Thank you for watching this overview of the NetSuite SuiteSuccess manufacturing solution.